Have you ever wondered what would have happened if Mabel hadn't grabbed the wrong backpack? While you might think that would have been a better option to avoid Weirdmageddon, you'd be very wrong. It would have been 100 times worse than what actually happened in the series. And I say this because of one of the images that appears in Bill Cipher's secret book, where we can see a Mabel with puppet-like eyes. Here's the alternate story of what would have happened in Gravity Falls if that reality had come true. The day everything changed in Gravity Falls started like any other, full of chaos, laughter, and the looming feeling that summer was coming to an end. Mabel, always the optimistic and full of energy, was handing out invitations for her 13th birthday party. For her, turning 13 wasn't just another number. It represented the last chance to cling to childhood before the dreaded adolescence took over. On the other hand, Dipper was caught in a very different crossroads. Ford, the wise uncle and Stan's older brother, had offered them the chance to become his apprentice and follow the path of science and interdimensional exploration. But accepting it would mean staying in Gravity Falls, while Mabel would have to return home alone. Dipper and Ford had spent the afternoon searching for a crucial alien glue to repair the container holding the interdimensional rift. That dangerous fracture threatening to unleash chaos across all dimensions if left unchecked. At the end of the day, Dipper had the conversation he had been dreading. Ford formally offered him the apprenticeship. Excited but nervous, Dipper accepted, but he knew this would break Mabel's heart. She was already struggling with the idea of growing up, of losing the summer, and now she would lose her brother too. Mabel, without knowing, overheard the conversation through their walkie-talkies. Devastated, she locked herself in her room crying. Dipper found her there, heartbroken. He tried to console her, but his words only seemed to make things worse. Mabel, through sobs, shouted, "I was counting on you, Dipper. I don't want to be alone, and now you're gonna leave me too." In her anguish, Mabel ran off. But in her rush, she made a crucial mistake. Instead of taking Dipper's backpack, which contained the interdimensional rift, she grabbed her own, filled with invitations for her birthday party. Unknowingly, this small mix-up would change the fate of Gravity Falls forever. Mabel ran into the forest, looking for a place to hide from reality. She stopped to rest for a moment, but something seemed off about the forest. It felt colder and quieter than usual. Her heart pounded as she tried to calm herself, but a voice interrupted her sobs. Well, what do we have here? Bill Cipher appeared in a golden spiral, floating in front of her. Little Mabel pines, with a broken heart and all those negative emotions. Perfect for me to offer my help. Mabel shivered. She knew who Bill Cipher was, and she knew she couldn't trust him. But after feeling betrayed by Dipper, nothing seemed to matter anymore. "Get lost! I don't care what you have to say!" Mabel yelled. "Oh, really? What if I told you I can make everything better? I can make summer never end. You and your brother will never be apart. Everything can just be like it always was. You just need my help." Mabel, vulnerable and desperate, started to listen. Bill played with her mind, manipulating her emotions. He offered her what she longed for the most: to stop time, freeze that last summer forever, and most importantly, never be separated from Dipper. Bill Cipher knew that although Mabel was vulnerable, he had to be careful. So, in a mocking voice, he said, "If you don't want or need my help, goodbye, but I'll be watching." Mabel, tempted by Bill's words, realized this was a great opportunity. No one else had the power Bill had to change her fate. So she yelled, telling him to wait, that if he kept his promise, she was willing to accept his help. She reached out her hand, and a great flash of light blinded her for a few seconds. Before Mabel could realize it, Bill had sealed the deal. Her eyes began to glow with a golden light as the demon took control of her mind. Meanwhile, back at the Mystery Shack, Dipper and Fort managed to seal the rift, but they sensed something was wrong. Mabel had been gone for a while now, and everyone thought she was just clearing her head after Dipper's decision. Poor Dipper felt awful for not considering his sister's feelings and went to look for her in a room, but it was empty. He walked out and saw Mabel from behind, holding the invitations she had lovingly prepared. Dipper approached her to apologize, but Mabel's strange behavior made him think. Mabel greeted him cheerfully and forgave him quickly. But smart Dipper, surprised, asked her how she had calmed down so quickly after being completely devastated. Mabel simply replied that she now understood that it was all part of growing up, and although Dipper was initially relieved, he began to doubt because of Mabel's yellow eyes. Things got even more suspicious when Mabel insisted they go see Uncle Stanford to fix the interdimensional rift. Dipper simply said, "Since when do you care about this stuff? You've always called me a nerd." It was then that he had no doubt. Bill Cipher was controlling Mabel's body. Quick-witted, Dipper lunged at Mabel, pushing her and causing her to hit her head. That's when Stanford, hearing all the commotion, rushed over and asked what was going on. But he saw Dipper attacking poor Mabel, though at that moment, Dipper yelled that it was a trap by Bill Cipher. Bill had also entered the shack to find the interdimensional rift, and something truly unexpected happened. Dipper threw Mabel's backpack, which was lying on the floor, to try and knock out the demon, but he made a huge mistake. That backpack was actually Dipper's. Bill quickly realized this and ran off with the rift in his hands. The sky over Gravity Falls darkened, and golden fractures began to tear through the air. Nightmarish creatures started to emerge, distorting reality. The Weird Mageddon had begun, and it was all thanks to Mabel. Chaos consumed Gravity Falls quickly. Bill, now with Mabel as his puppet, floated over the town, laughing as chaos reigned. The demon had a clear plan: unleash Weird Mageddon on the entire world, expanding his realm of madness beyond Gravity Falls. However, he didn't know that Stanford had an ace up his sleeve, because when Bill tried to cross the town's borders, something strange happened. He was stopped, as if an invisible barrier was confining him within the town's limits. Bill was furious. "This isn't possible! I'm an interdimensional being! I cannot be contained by a simple town!" But then he understood. Stanford Pines. The man had anticipated this. For years, Ford had worked on an equation that sealed Gravity Falls, blocking interdimensional exits and trapping any beings from other dimensions within the town's boundaries. Ford had foreseen the Weird Mageddon and found a way to prevent Bill from escaping. The demon was now trapped in Gravity Falls, and his power, though immense, couldn't expand beyond that small prison. Bill needed that equation to break the seal, but the only one who knew it was Ford, and he wasn't willing to reveal it. In the final battle, Dipper and Ford faced off against Bill and the possessed Mabel. Ford knew there was only one way to stop Bill. He had to sacrifice himself. He knew that as long as he was alive, Bill would torment him to get the equation, so he made a decision that would break Dipper's heart. "You can't do this!" Dipper shouted, watching as his uncle prepared for his sacrifice. "It's the only way, Dipper. If Bill gets the equation, not just Gravity Falls will be in danger, the whole universe will be." Ford gave Dipper one last hug and threw himself at Bill, distracting him long enough to give Dipper time to escape. Bill's attack went through Ford, who fell to the ground lifeless. Bill froze for a moment. Without Ford, there was no way for him to get the equation. He was trapped. Weird Mageddon continued to wreak havoc within Gravity Falls, but Bill was never able to expand his reign. Although he had won in a sense, his victory was incomplete. He was trapped in the eternal chaos of a distorted town, unable to escape. Dipper, on the other hand, was devastated. His sister, his uncle, everything he loved had been destroyed. Mabel, still under Bill's control, was lost forever. And even though he knew Mabel would never return, Dipper did everything he could to save her from Bill's cipher. He searched the journals and Stanford's inventions, but it was all in vain. Bill knew he couldn't release Mabel because keeping her trapped kept deeper in despair, so he simply held her hostage to torment him for years. The Mystery Shack, once a refuge for adventures and discoveries, was now only a shadow of what he had once shared with his uncle and Mabel. The heavy silence and darkness enveloped deeper as he stared at the empty place, remembering the days when he and Mabel were inseparable. Gravity Falls was trapped in an eternal cycle of madness, and Dipper, now without his family, remained in that prison, doomed to wander alone among the remains of a summer that should have never ended. Meanwhile, Bill was condemned to a prison he had built for himself forever.